Hi everyone, my name is Julia, and today I'm going to be running through a full Propel onboarding just to show you around, to give you the full training, and that way you know exactly how you're going to be using Propel. So the very first thing that you're going to want to do right when you get your login info and first head into Propel is head into settings and then accounts. So accounts are the way that Propel is organized. All of your media lists and all of your monitoring alerts have to be attached to one of these accounts. So for PR agencies, generally each account represents a different client. For in-house PR, it is up to you how you'd like to separate these. It can be by product, by event, category, basically however you would like to do it, or you could just create one general account for your company and have everything under that one. But in order to create one, you just click this little plus button, give it a name. You can select which users you want to have access to these certain accounts. You don't really have to worry about this other stuff unless you'd like to, but I would recommend putting in the website address of either your client or your company. We do have a Google Analytics tracking and backlink tracking, which I'll talk about some more at the end, but just go ahead, put in the website address right from the get-go. And then if we head into users under settings, here we have our user management. This way you're able to add in users clicking that little plus button, give them a name, email. Once you input their email and click finish, they will receive that same login email that you did. And then you can also select who has access to which accounts directly from here as well. And then once you've actually created the users, if you ever wanted to archive someone to not give them access anymore, you can click this button right here. Or if you needed to edit a user, you can click that pencil icon. So now heading into actually using Propel, if we go into the database that's found in the Discover section, we have 4 different ways of finding journalists. The very first search is the journalist search. On the left, we have our search filters, and then on the right, the actual journalists. Really easy, straightforward. This topic search actually integrates directly with our article search, which you can find in the second tab of the Discover section. So the way that this works is you input different keywords and it will scan the headlines of the articles within our database and pull in the authors over here on the right. And then you can also filter by category. We have over 300 categories. This is just the space that the writers identify themselves within. And so you can double these up to get some really narrow results. And then you can further filter by outlet prominence. This is based on the domain authority of the journalist outlet. And then you can also filter by contact name, job title, outlet from there, location. This proximity search can be really helpful if you're looking for journalists in a pretty specific area. You're able to input a city and then select the radius. You can either choose miles or kilometers, and then search from there and pick and choose how large you want that search to stretch. And then all the way at the bottom, you can also filter by media type. So generally, we recommend at least inputting 3 or 4 of these filters to really narrow down the results and get the exact journalist that you're looking for. And then once you do that, if you wanted to add a few of them to a list, all you have to do is check this box in the upper right corner of their contact card, click Add to Media List, and then here are the names of your different accounts. And once you hover, these are the media lists underneath those accounts. And if you wanted to create a new one, you can just go down here, new media list, give it a name, and then click enter and you're good to go. And then if we actually click into a journalist profile, from here we'll get a lot more data and insights into this specific person. On the left, we have pitching preferences. This data is pulled across all global Propel users. So anytime anyone pitches Atom using Propel, these stats are automatically updated. And then on the right, we have Twitter frequency, recent hashtags, recent popular tweets. You can see his recent articles. And then in addition, you can add some notes. If you add notes, everybody in your organization will be able to see those notes as well. And then if someone has actually contacted this person before in your company, there will be a few more tabs here, such as past correspondence, top relationships, media lists that they're a part of, pitches that they've been sent, and just some more stats and info about them. So then moving down into the article search, I talked about this a little bit before. Basically, you input these different keywords. And so this works a little bit like a mini Boolean query search where you're able to input certain words and subtract others. So right now I'm pulling in headlines that include the word vaccine, but not COVID, coronavirus, or COVID-19 because we're sick of hearing about it. But yes, you're able to subtract different words. You can also add them. So if I wanted to pull in headlines that include vaccine and COVID, but not coronavirus or COVID-19, you can just subtract that there. The one thing to note if you are subtracting words is not to include a space in between the minus symbol and the term. And the also other thing to know about the article search is it will only scan the headlines for these keywords. If you use media monitoring and our online monitoring feature, that is when it scans the entire article, which I'll talk about some more in a little bit. But for right here, it's mainly just used for finding authors and finding people to add to your media lists. And then the very last thing to know about the article search is this little box that says only show authors with an email address. We do have articles that are either written by an Outlook at large or by someone that's not really considered a full-time journalist, so we don't have their contact info. But if you check this box, it will only pull in people that you can directly add to your list. You'll be able to tell if their name is hyperlinked, just like this. And then if you wanted to actually add them to a list, you just check this little box, just like that. And then you can also filter by outlets or by Twitter influencers. These work exactly the same way. The only thing to note about the Twitter influencer search is you input these different keywords and then it will scan the bios of their Twitter profiles and pull them in that way. So now heading over into the pitching section. Here, all of those lists that you created in the database will appear, or you can create a new one directly from this page by clicking on this plus button in the upper right corner. From here, you're able to input a name, select the account, and now you can either create a list from scratch or you can really easily copy an existing list. And we recommend using this feature if you are pitching the same media list but for a different campaign. We recommend just creating a new initiative altogether. That way you can track the success, meaning the open rates and response rates of your pitches by these individual campaigns rather than them being mixed together within the same list. Hopefully that makes sense. Reach out to me if it doesn't. But once you've actually created those lists, if you click into one, here you'll be able to see all of the contacts. You can check out previous pitching engagement, so how many pitches they've been sent by people in your organization in the past, their open rates, response rates. You can check out tags, and then you're also able to assign owners. So if someone in your firm has a special previous relationship with this journalist, you can click on these three dots and then assign them or yourself as the owner. You can also edit tags and notes from here. If you wanted to pitch someone also directly from here in just an individual email, you'd be able to click on this little envelope icon right from here. You're also able to import contacts from CSV using this button in the upper right corner. If you do that, here we have a sample, so you can see exactly what the headers and the field name should be, so all of their data transitions perfectly into Propel. And then, of course, you can always export your contacts to CSV from here as well. My contacts is just a long list of every person that you've ever added to any of your lists, and you can either import or export from here as well. So now moving into actual pitching, we have both a Gmail and an Outlook integration. They work very, very similarly. Today I'll show you using Gmail, but we also have a few videos in our product tutorial YouTube page that has specific instructions on how to pitch using Outlook as well. But if we were pitching, we're going to compose a new email. Once you've added the Propel plugin, you'll see this little toolbar. You will be able to track the opens of your regular personal emails, even if they're not a pitch. If you would like to, you can choose that by clicking on this eye. All of your pitches will automatically be tracked though. So if we were sending out a pitch, we're going to select a pitching initiative. Here we have the names of our different accounts or our different clients. And once you hover, these are our campaign names or media lists. Select one. And then from here, you can kind of just write out the pitch. We have a whole bunch of different variables. So first name, last name, publication. You can include those in the subject line as well, just like that. And then if there are templates or drafts that you really like to use, you'd be able to write that template out, click on this icon, give it a name, and then everyone in your firm will be able to have access to that sample pitch. They can click on one, insert it, and there you go. Here you're also able to include images and variables in those templates. So if the pitch is all written out, now we are going to select the media list that we want to send it to. If you have been creating a new list for each campaign, you can just click this media list. Otherwise, you can access your other ones here. And then from here, you'll get a preview of all the contacts in that list. And you can either select them all or just select a few. And then over here on the right, you'll see this little note if someone in your agency or your company has contacted them before. This will let you know who they were last contacted by, when, and for which campaign, and the status of that last pitch. If that font shows up red, just like this is either trying to warn you that this person has been already pitched for this specific campaign, or you're on the verge of double pitching them, meaning that you or someone else has pitched them in the last week. And you can change that also in your settings to 2 days or 30 days or however long. It is just trying to give you the heads up. And you can also filter by already pitched or double pitched as well. So if we click select, you'll see this little box pop up that says you chose multiple recipients. This is important. This is trying to remind you, you are not going to want to use this regular send button because that would send it like a mass email to each person in the to field. Instead, you're going to want to use one of these 3 buttons at the bottom. Send mail merge is going to essentially BCC this email. So it's going to send it to everyone individually with the correct variables and placeholders, and no one would be able to tell that you sent it to more than one person. You can schedule a mail merge, or if you click generate drafts, this feature is pretty cool. It's designed to save you a lot of time if you are pitching more personalized emails to smaller lists. Now, if you head over into your drafts folder, you can see now each one of those emails is separate. There we go. Each one of these emails is separate, individual. The variables are put in place. The pitch is still there, but now you can really easily go in and personalize it a little bit further. And then now you can either send it normally or schedule a send. You're also able to schedule a follow-up reminder right down here. And then once that follow-up reminder is due, you can access those by clicking on this little propeller, and then you can click into the emails that require follow-ups right here. So once you've actually sent them out, they will appear in your regular sent folder and also in this little Propel folder. And now you'll be able to tell which emails are pitches if they have this little eye and if they have the account name. So if the eye is blue, it means the email has been opened, and then this number represents how many times. If the eye is gray, it means the email has not been opened. And then once you actually click into the email, you'll see the sidebar will pop up on the right. Here you can edit those follow-up notifications. You can check out contact stats, recent pitches, upcoming pitches, and you can also add notes. But the main thing is this drop down. So this represents the status of this pitch, where the first 3 unopened, opened, and responded will update automatically. And then these last 4, you can go in and just manually change. So if you have corresponded back and forth with this journalist a bit and you actually get an article published, you can click into that email, change the status to article published, copy and paste that URL, and then once you click out of it, The rest of this info will populate automatically. And then once you click submit, everything will be stored and tracked back in Propel. And then the last thing for Gmail is if you click on these three dots in the Propel folder, you're able to filter by the status of that pitch and also the name of the campaign. So now heading back into Propel, if we go into the monitor section, and then this first tab is the story funnel. Here, we're also able to keep track of all of our pitches. So every time you send an email and attach a pitching initiative, either in your Gmail or Outlook, one of these cards will be created. And just like that dropdown, the first three statuses will update automatically. And then these last four, you can just drag a pitch over in order to update that status. You can input your article URLs here as well. And then in addition, you're able to filter by account, by campaign. If you're an administrator or a manager, you're also able to filter by my pitches, everyone's pitches, or specific users. And then in addition to that, if you ever needed to create a new card manually, if you maybe wanted to track a pitch that you sent before using Propel, or if you forgot to attach a pitching initiative, you'd be able to click this little plus button, fill out these fields, and create a card manually. So now, moving into the media monitoring portion of Propel, this section is separate than everything else. So the Discover, Pitch, and Analyze tabs kind of all go along with your actual pitching, and all of these results and data are based on that of your pitching success, campaign rates, stuff like that. But the media monitoring, this section is kind of its own thing. So we have three different features for media monitoring: online, social, which covers Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and then broadcast, which is TV and radio. And the way that this works is on the left, we have our alerts. The first line is the name of the alert, and then underneath is the name of the account that it's under. And if you wanted to create a new alert, all you have to do is click this plus button, name, account. And once you do that, it will pull up a page that looks just like this. It'll look a little bit different depending on whether you're creating an online, a social, or a broadcast alert. But from here, you're able to pick and choose the sources that you want to pull in mentions from. You can block certain sites. You can choose to group mentions. This just means if you have duplicate mentions, so if two different websites posted the exact same content, you can choose to either group them together or not. And then right down here, we have our Boolean query. So if you've used these before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, please feel free to reach out to me and we can go through this in a little bit more depth. Basically, you input your different keywords and then it will start pulling in the mentions and the coverage that match those keywords. And as I mentioned before, it will scan the entire content of the article for those words. But you're able to make these as narrow or as general as you would like. Just be careful if you're creating really general queries, as it's going to pull in thousands and thousands of mentions a day. On that note, we do have one quota. You are allowed to have 25,000 mentions per month, 25,000 for online, 25,000 for social if you had both. But if you are on track to double that quota in a day, we will automatically shut it off and let you know that you need to edit the query to make it a bit more narrow, just because you don't want to reach that quota too quickly. But usually it's not really a problem. No one really ever meets the quota. But on the right, when actually writing the query, we have all of these examples, operators, descriptions, all that good stuff. So once you click finish, it's going to start pulling in all of those mentions. And you can see here, you can click into each one of those mentions, into the link. We have an automated sentiment. So this just gives you an overview of the attitude or the tone of this piece. And then you can also archive a mention if it's not relevant. And then up at the top right corner, if you click show graphs, you're able to compare multiple alerts at once. So let's click into a different one here. If you wanted to set up an alert for maybe your company and then some competitors or your clients' competitors, you'd be able to start pulling in those mentions, type in the different names that you want to compare, and then you're able to look at share of voice, volume over time, volume by tier, sentiment, and online source. And we also have a monitoring dashboard that looks really similar to this that I'll show you in a second. And then social works exactly the same way, but from here you're able to see whether the posts are on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. So then moving down to monitoring report schedules, this is where you're able to set up an email report where every morning or every week you wanted to receive an email overview of all the mentions or all the coverage that came in overnight or over the past week, however long you set it up for. And it will send you a really pretty email overview, and then it will also attach an Excel file or a CSV that you can really easily save to keep track of all of the mentions. And so if you wanted to create one, just give it a name, select the account, and then you're able to, if we type in the name of an account, select all of the alerts or just specific ones for this alert. And then the last feature of monitoring is this dashboard. So I mentioned this before. You're able to input as many alerts as you would like, and it will compare all of them in this pretty dashboard that shows all of those graphs, just like it did in the actual media monitoring page. This page is nice because there's a few different ways you can share this data. If you wanted to save a graph individually, you can click on these 3 lines and download it a few different ways. You can export this entire page to PDF where each one of these graphs is going to show up on a different page. Or if you click this little share icon, you're actually able to share this page with anyone in the world. They'll only have access to the alert that you set up under the account that you input in right here when you actually click the share button. But from here, we can talk about these other shareable dashboards in a couple minutes, but you're able to copy this link and then you can send it to anyone in the world and they'll have access to this page in real time without needing a Propel login. And then the very last section is analyze. This is where we can keep track of the results or the impact of your pitching and your articles published. And so this very first tab is business outcomes. This is where we have our Google Analytics integration. And basically the way that this works is if your company or your client's company allows Propel to be a view-only user into their Google Analytics, that's the way we'll have access to this data. And so the direct attribution graphs, the way that this works is if you have an article published and it includes a backlink to your website, your client's website, we can actually track how many people click on that backlink. And then it goes a step further and shows how many people got a free trial, bought a product, even signed up for a newsletter. Whatever your specific goals are or your client's specific goals are, we can actually measure the ROI or the direct impact of this article. And then scrolling down a bit, we also have general correlation. This is more big picture stuff. So here you're able to look at when you're having articles published and compare it to website traffic. And then all the way at the bottom, we have another general correlation graph, but instead of website traffic, it's those goal completions. So the free trials, products bought. There we go. And then this page, just like that media monitoring dashboard, you're able to share a live link to. Moving down to account summary. This is actually the home page, the very first thing that you see right when you enter Propel. And this gives you a nice dashboard of all of your pitches sent and your articles published based on your different accounts. And so this can be really useful if you are, especially an agency, depending on how you set up your accounts as a PR in-house team, this can be useful as well. But it gives you a really good sense of where you are basically inputting your effort and where it's paying off. And then if we scroll down a bit, you can also check out conversion rates for your pitches based on those different accounts. And then all the way at the bottom, we also have this results chart. So here we have all of the URLs or the links to the coverage that you either inputted into the story funnel or directly into your Gmail or your Outlook. And then once you input those links, we'll automatically pull the Moz score, which is based on the domain authority of the outlet, unique monthly visitors, whether it has a backlink, tier level, which is also based on unique monthly visitors. And yeah, just a nice overview. You're able to download this chart individually, or you can download this whole page to PDF. And you can also filter all of this data as well. Moving down the line, the team results page looks exactly like the account summary page, but rather than the data being based on your different accounts, it's actually based on your users. So you can enable this where only managers or administrators have access to this page. And this can be a really, really great tool for professional development. You're able to kind of check out if we go down to the conversion rates, you can really check out who has an amazing open rate. So let's say Carla has a great open rate. Maybe her subject lines are really, really great. And then she can kind of help out Nick, who has a 21% open rate. And you can really just kind of see where people excel and maybe where they fall short. You can check out how many pitches people are sending, how many articles are being published, and then at the bottom, just who is securing those articles. Then if we go down to pitching activity, this is a long list of all of the pitches that anyone in your team has ever sent, including who they sent it to, for which campaign, and the status of that pitch. And then just like the account summary and the team results, you are able to input different filters, date range, practice account, pitching initiative, users. There we go. There we are. And then of course, this data is always exportable as well. And then top contacts this is basically the journalists that engage with you the most, that answer the highest number of your emails, have the greatest response rates. And then in addition, you can also look at your most pitched media outlets. And then lastly, if we go down to these shareable dashboards, so just like the shareable dashboard for media monitoring and business outcomes, we have two more for coverage and activities. Coverage is obviously just those articles published, and then activities represents everything up until you actually secure the article. So materials, interview, responses. And so this dashboard, it would be a really, really nice link to send to your client, and they'd be able to have access to this page whenever they would like in real time. And there we go. Oh, I'll show you the activities page as well. Total pending activities, active campaigns. So if you haven't really had any articles published yet, but you want to show some of your progress so far, you can send this to your client as well. And that about covers it. If you do ever come across any questions when playing around with Propel, we have this cute little chat bubble in the corner. You can access the knowledge base. If you go to your name in the upper right corner, this knowledge base has a bunch of articles, resources, FAQ, and then you can always email me at julia@propelmypr.com, and I'm happy to hop on a call or answer any questions that you have. Thanks. Bye.